This video is about configuring spanning tree protocols in COMMANDO C3500 series routing switches. So let's understand the spanning tree protocol, which are defined by IEEE 802.1 D, W or S standards. 802.1D stands for spanning tree protocol, 802.1W stands for rapid spanning tree, and 802.1S stands for multiple spanning tree. These all intelligently avoid loops in a network by creating loop-free tree topology or spanning tree of entire LAN to avoid broadcast storms, MAC table instability and multiple frame transmissions. So broadcast terms means the forwarding of the frame repeatedly on the same links, consuming sufficient part of link capacity. MAC table instability is the continual updating of the switch MAC address table with incorrect entries in the reaction to looping frame, resulting in the frame being sent to the wrong locations. Multiple frame transmission is a side effect of looping frames in the multiple copies of the one frame are delivered to the intended host, confusing the host for what is it's all about. So spanning tree protocol protects a layer 2 broadcast domain from the broadcast storms by selecting or setting link to either standby, disable or block mode to prevent loops. There are various timers used in the spanning tree protocol, like hello timer. It's a period between the hello created by the root. Hello BPDUs every 2 seconds are sent to the neighbor switches by default. Maxage timer, it's a waiting time for switch after ceasing to hear hellos before trying to change the spanning tree topology. Default is 10 times the hello, so the default maxage timer is 20 seconds. Forwarding delay timer, for changing state from blocking state to forwarding state in the IEEE 802.1D spanning tree protocol, the port stays in listening state for the number of seconds defined by the forwarding delay timer and the default timer is 15 seconds. For rapid spanning tree, this default timer is 2 seconds, forward delay timer. So there are various stages through port will go for each spanning tree. So for IEEE 802.1D spanning tree protocol, switch goes through the 5 steps to create the loop free topology. Blocking, when the device is connected and the port will first enter the blocking state. Listening, the switch will listen for and send BPDUs. Learning, switch will receive a superior BPDU and will stop sending the own BPDUs and will relay the superior BPDUs. Forwarding, the port is in the forwarding traffic. And disable, after STP calculation port will be disabled. And in spanning tree protocol, the port roles are root port, designated port and block ports. So root ports, these are in forwarding state. Designated ports, that the ports on the other switches or the bridges that is connected to the root port, and all the ports on the root port are also designated ports. Block ports or other ports to the other bridges or switches in the block states. One more concept is there in spanning tree called as Port Fast concept, which allows switch to immediately transition from blocking to forwarding and bypassing listening and learning state. However, only ports on which you can safely enable ports are the port in which there is no bridge or switch or spanning tree speaking devices are connected. Port fast risks creating loop, the very thing that the listening and learning states are intended to avoid. Port fast is the most appropriate for connection of end user devices like PCs, laptop. You can turn on port fast on the port connected to the end user devices. So IEEE 802.1W rapid spanning tree protocol RSTP ensures loop free topology for Ethernet networks and has only 3 port states like discarding, learning and forwarding, and 5 port roles like root, port, designated port, alternate backup port and disable. So IEEE 802.1W RSTP operations are faster than the STP operations, and the topology is converged fastly with the help of RSTP. RSTP is backward compatible with the standard STP and detects network topology to provide faster convergence than the spanning tree. So rapid spanning tree main purpose is to improve the STP convergence time, and the main difference between the spanning tree IEEE 802 rapid spanning tree IEEE 802.1W and spanning tree protocol IEEE 802.1D is the port state and their roles. So by taking a comparison, IEEE 802.1D has a convergence time generally of 50 seconds, where 20 second 10 into hellos are the maxage timer, 15 seconds for listening, 15 seconds for learning. Port states are blocking, listening, learning and forwarding and disable, and the port roles are root port, designated port and blocking port. For RSTP IEEE 802.1W convergence time is from 0 to 21 seconds. Maxage timer is 6 seconds, 3 times a hello and 15 second learning time. And the states are like discard, learning or forwarding. And the port roles are root port, designated port, alternate port and backup port. And RSTP also recognizes the link types like point-to-point links, shared links. Then IEEE 802.1S multiple spanning tree MSTP enables multiple VLAN to be mapped to the same spanning tree instance, thereby reducing the number of spanning tree instances needed to support the large number of VLANs. The MST provides the multiple forwarding path for data traffic and enable load balancing. It improves the fault tolerance of the network because a failure in one instant forwarding path does not affect the other instant's forwarding path. The most common initial deployment of MSTP is in the backbone and distribution layer of L2 switches. It provides highly available network required in a service provider environment. When the switch is in the multiple spanning tree MST mode, the rapid spanning tree protocol RSTP, which is based on IEEE 802.1W, is automatically enabled. The RSTP provides a rapid convergence of the spanning tree through explicit handshaking that eliminates IEEE 802.1D forwarding delay and quick transition root ports and designated ports to the forwarding state. So how MSTP operates? So MST provides multiple instances of spanning tree with a rapid conversion. It makes possible for VLAN switching device to use a multiple spanning tree, allowing traffic belonging to different VLAN to flow a potentially different path within the LAN. It builds upon the advancement of RSTP with the decreased time of network respan. It detects layer 2 loops and attempts to mitigate them by preventing the involved port from transmitting traffic. Since loop exists in per layer 2 domain basis, a situation can occur where a loop in the VLAN A and no loop in the VLAN B. If both VLANs are on the port X, the STP wants to mitigate the loop. It stops traffic on the entire port, including VLAN B traffic. 802.1S is backward compatible to 802.1D and 802.1W. MST is the only standard based and interoperable version of spanning tree supporting VLANs and suitable for multi-vendor switch environment. So, an instance in MST or 802.1Q along with 802.1S multiple spanning tree allows 802.1Q trunks to support multiple STP instances. So, multiple instant STP, MISTP or multiple STP defines the way to use multiple instances of STP in the network and use 802.1Q trunking. The following are some of the main benefits of 802.1s. They are like always use 802.12 RSTP for faster conversion. It does not require STP instance for each VLAN. Rather, the best design use one STP instance per redundant path. One of the key benefits of MST that it requires only one MST instance for a group of VLAN. If this MST region has hundreds of VLAN, only one set of STP message is needed for each MST instance. So MST instance support MSTP supports multiple instances on the single physical interface. So MSTP is an extension of RSTP that map multiple independent spanning tree instances into one physical topology. Each spanning tree instance STI include one or more VLANs, unlike in STP and RSTP configuration. A port might belong to multiple VLAN and dynamically block in one spanning tree instance but forward in other. This behavior significantly improves the network resource utilization by load balancing across the network and maintaining CPU loads at moderate levels. MSTP also leverages the fast reconvergence time of RSTP when the network switch or the port failure occurs within the spanning tree instance. And the MST creates a common or internal spanning tree CISD and interconnects and manage all the MSTP region and even individual devices that run the RSTP or STP, which is recognized as a distinct spanning tree region by MST. The CISD views each MSTP region as a virtual bridge regardless of the actual number of devices participate in the MST region and enables the multiple spanning tree instance MSTs to link other regions. So the CISD is a single topology that connects all switches STP, RSTP and MSTP within the bridge network. So how to configure this spanning tree with the commando switches? So for that you have to give the command configure terminal and say spanning tree, and you are having these commands where if you want to set MST, you say MST, RSTP or STP. So let's start with RSTP, spanning mode, tree mode RSTP. So by default bridge already in the RSTP mode. We can change it to the STP or MSTP as per our choice. So now it is in STP mode. This way we can enable STP, RSTP or MSTP in the commando C3500 switches. So we can enable or disable spanning tree by giving the command spanning tree enable, enter. So this will enable the spanning tree in the network. No spanning tree enable will disable the spanning tree. We can also force the interfaces. Let us say for interface ETH-0-9, I want to force it to spanning tree version, spanning tree force version. So I can 0 means STP version, 1 means not supported, 2 means RSTP and 3 means MSTP. So I can force to any of the version. Let us say I want to make it STP. So this way spanning tree is enabled and different spanning tree can be configured in the switches. Show spanning tree, MST brief, show spanning tree, command will give the spanning tree enabled. So I have enabled which spanning tree and the calculations and everything is given with the help of this command. We can also set the spanning tree priority for the bridges. So for that configure terminal. So it will help us in the root bridge election or particular bridge we can or switch we can set as a root bridge. So spanning tree priority. So we can set, let us say 4096. So lower priority indicates that greater likelihood of becoming a root bridge. We can also set the forwarding time or timers also. So for spanning tree, so we can set the timer like maxage timer, hello time, and we can also have the forward time. So these timers can be set. Let us say hello timer we want to change. Hello time by default is 2 seconds. I want to change to 1 second. So this way I can change the timers. We can also change the port priorities. Lower priority indicates the greater likelihood of bridge becoming a root. If all the switch bridge priorities are same, then interface priority we can change. So for that, int, let us say ETH-0-9, and I want to change spanning tree port priority to be, we can set this priority is in increment of 16 and lower priority indicates greater likelihood. So I will make it 32. Then for MST configurations, spanning tree MST is the command, and we can configure the MST configuration. So I will be in the MST mode, and I can define the instances like instance 1 VLAN. We can choose any of the VLAN 2, 3, 4. So this is not configured in MST. So first of all, we have to enable the MST mode, spanning tree mode, MST P, and then go to the MST configuration and say instance 1 and VLAN 2. So this way we can have, we can also set the path cost short or long as per our choice. So for that, spanning tree path cost standard. So we can have this 1998 DOT 1T standard, which is the newer one, long one. So this way we can change the path cost or the path cost value. We can also configure the spanning tree link type, which in theory we discussed. So in spanning tree link, in interface this command will work. Let us say interface ETH-0-9 spanning tree link type, and we can have these 3 types of link like auto, point to point, or shared. So point to point. So show spanning tree will show the spanning tree MST, because now MST is enabled, will show the MST configuration. So MST is enabled for this switch, and you can see the instances also which we have configured. Show spanning tree brief will give the idea briefly about how the spanning tree is working in our switch. So this way it's working. So spanning tree is the most important protocol to avoid the loops, as well as having the loop free topology of your network. So it is very important feature in any of the switches, though it's L3 plus core and routing switches, data center functionality switches, but this is also a very important topic which everybody is knowing and can understand the commands of COMMANDO C3500 series switches. Thank you.